Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening, depending on your time zone and depending on when you are watching this. It is Wednesday, the 29th of July, 2020, almost halfway through most people's working week. I'm James Innes and this is my YouTube show, The Jobs Guru. I'm delighted to see you here for today's episode. I extend a very warm welcome to all those who have subscribed since the last episode. And if you haven't yet subscribed, then please do think about subscribing so you don't miss out on the next episode. In today's show, I'm going to be tackling a question from one of my viewers, and next in the interview question series, I'm going to be asking, how did you cope with the most difficult colleague you've ever had? Crikey. If you have any questions or comments as you watch, then do please let me have them below, and if you like what you see, then do please hit that YouTube thumbs up. So, on to that question from one of my readers. Today's question has been sent in by Richard in Portsmouth. He says, Dear James, I'm working as an IT consultant for a big company and considering going freelance. What are the pros and cons? I would like more flexibility in my working hours, but I'm scared about being reliant on myself only. What are your opinions and advice for those thinking about becoming self-employed? Is there anything I should consider? Okay, well, Richard, in Portsmouth. Okay, I can see you are faced, evidently, with quite a major life decision here, and I can understand, obviously, I can understand why you're contemplating going freelance. And you're absolutely right to be very careful in weighing up the pros and the cons. First of all, I can say it's definitely going to be a challenge if you do go for it. That's a fact. There's a lot of competition for any job these days, and the competition for freelance roles is even stiffer, particularly at the moment. The biggest con is quite simply, as in a negative point, is quite simply the lack of security. You currently enjoy a reasonable degree of job security, don't you, yeah? And that will be lost. The other side of the coin, of course, is that no job is ever 100% secure, particularly at the moment. What will change most definitely, though, is your security of income. You'll have to adapt from, a fixed income to an ever-changing monthly income. And I can tell you from experience that is something which takes some getting used to. But don't let this put you off. The advantages are obvious. The flexibility, the variety, and hopefully the potential actually to earn quite a bit more. In terms of advice, I'd say you need to ensure you have a very strong presence on LinkedIn and work hard on building and developing your network. This will be vital. What you know is important. Who you know might be even more important. Now, I am always open to interesting new questions from my viewers, so if you have a workplace, jobs, careers, or employment-related question for me, then do please type it into that comment section below, and I may well feature it in a future episode of this show. And if I do, then regular viewers will know that one of my limited edition collector's item, Jobs Guru coffee mugs, will be yours. I know you want one. You know you want one. I'm going to register that as a catchphrase, I think. Now, as well as heading up JamesInnes.group, I'm also the UK's best-selling careers author. And amongst my titles is, I've got a copy here, the Interview Question and Answer book. It is, of course, available in all good bookshops, as they say. Or if you'd like a signed copy from yours truly, there's a link in the description of this video. Now, each Wednesday, I'm taking questions from that book and looking at how to answer them. At the moment, I'm taking those questions from the chapter I entitled The Top 25 Tough Questions Taking the Heat. Today's question. How did you cope with the most difficult colleague you've ever had? Now, similar questions include, have you ever had problems getting on with a colleague? Or is there anyone you currently work with that you find really difficult to relate to? What sort of person do you find difficult to work with? But, I got another one as well, yeah. Have you ever had to work with someone really difficult? But that's the question in hand. How did you cope with the most difficult colleague you've ever had? Now, I'm pretty sure that pretty much everyone watching this is going to have an image in their mind of that particular colleague. We've all had one, haven't we? Now, the way in which, I remember mine, good God. The way in which you answer this question will tell the interviewer pretty much everything they need to know about your interpersonal skills. When it comes to dealing with interpersonal conflict, there are three main ways in which you might react. Do you clash head-on with difficult people? Do you find ways to deal with them? Do you run away and hide? The interviewer wants to ascertain which of these categories you fall into. It's a probing question that will not only tell them how likely you are to integrate with your colleagues, how well you're likely to integrate with your colleagues, but it will also speak volumes about your character in general. Whilst it might seem blatantly obvious that what makes someone difficult to work with, the interviewer will also be interested, nonetheless, in your perception of what makes a colleague difficult, because it does vary from person to person. So, how to answer? The correct answer is, of course, to convey to the interviewer that you very much fall into that second category. You want to demonstrate that you are someone who, when faced with a difficult colleague, or customer for that matter, little difference, will find ways to work with them to put your relationship on a more positive footing. So this is actually a great opportunity to portray yourself as management material. The interviewer won't want to hire a hothead who is just going to clash with their colleagues, nor do they want to hire someone who's going to be prone to being bullied. Most work environments contain at least one difficult person. It's the school bully syndrome, isn't it? And it's a fact of life, and you've got to show that you can cope with it. Not only that you can cope with it, but you can, in spite of the difficulties, successfully work with such individuals. Empathy is very important, but it's vital to be assertive with it, or you're not going to get very far. Now, as usual, I have plucked a little example answer from my book for you. I haven't read it since I wrote it about, 8 years ago now. So, like everybody, I've certainly had to deal with difficult colleagues on occasion, not half. Colleagues who have failed to pull their weight, who have been too ready to blame others for their errors, or who simply have an unpleasant and unprofessional attitude. I'm not afraid of making my opinion known, and I believe that communication, especially in difficult or high-pressure situations, is essential in developing effective working relationships. Whilst some interpersonal conflict is inevitable, I don't believe in clashing head-on with a difficult colleague. It's much more productive to try to understand them, to reason with them, and to find ways of working through any difficulties you may have. Communication is the key. You often find that someone with whom you initially had difficulties can, once you've reached an understanding, become a valued co-worker. That is true. It really is true. Now, I'm currently updating the interview question and answer book, working on a brand new edition, the 3rd edition. So if you have any interview questions which you think I should be considering for possible inclusion, do please let me know in the comments section below. And if I use your question, obviously, there'll be a signed copy of that new edition on its way to you in the post. I may even throw in a free interview coaching session with me if you like, the man who literally wrote the book on interviews. Or, of course, you can just pop along and book a session at jamedennis.group. So now, not far from the end of today's show, I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, for the final show of the week. Remember, the show is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday pretty much every week, even when I'm on holiday, yes. Just 2 more things. First, I must squeeze in some routine but important requests. Do please check me out on social media. Connect, follow, otherwise stalk me. But please don't troll me. Life is far too short for trolls, don't you think? If you have any questions or comments about this episode, about the show in general, indeed about life, the universe, Mariah Carey's cover of Without You, whatever, do please let me have them below. That's my typing noise, by the way. If you like this episode, then please do hit it with the YouTube thumbs up. If you've already given me a thumbs up, then think about subscribing, yeah? And if you are subscribing, then ring that bell at the same time. Once more, I did that far too close to my ear. So that LinkedIn, sorry, confused by my t-shirt. So that YouTube can notify you of the release of the next episode. If you've already done all of that, well, thank you very much. Finally, what is happening in the next episode? In Thursday's show, I'll be looking at the week's workplace news. I do hope you'll tune in. Thank you for watching today. Keep safe and be well, my friends. Goodbye.